Hi, Ray.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Just shut this door. Actually, seeing you here.
Yeah, here we are again.
Yeah.
So once again, this is Debbie Johnson and Ray Dickinson. We're from We're from the Royal British Legion Bridgwater Branch, and Ray wears several hats. He's deputy chair currently. He's also in charge of. He's a property lead, who I work for him for that. And he's also one of the welfare caseworkers as well, and in charge of the caseworker, welfare provision within the branch as well. So you wear two hats really, don't you, Ray? You've got the branch community support and you've got welfare provision case officer part.
Yeah.
So tell us about the difference between the two things.
Well, it all sounds very grand, but it's not really. Okay, so just talk about branch community support first of all, which is really an extension of the welfare side of things, but into the local scenario. So what we do with branch community support is we provide facilities or services for people that might need them in the local community. So such things as transport. On occasion, people might need to get to doctor's appointments, hospital appointments. They might need even to go for state benefits interviews. I've had a couple of those as well. The transport thing for some people is quite important, and it will involve things like shopping sometimes as well. So we do that sort of thing. There's a sort of telephone buddying facility. So from time to time we'll pick up the phone and ring people that we know could do with just a friendly chat, a friendly voice at the end of the phone, and perhaps sometimes speak to people about more pressing issues that they might have, and that's my phone just going off. Yeah, well, it's life now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we do that sort of thing.
Something that you've done through COVID as well, isn't it? That's something that you've been doing through COVID. And what's the response been like with that? Yeah,
during this latest lockdown, I've been phoning people. Most of them are actually quite surprised to get a phone call, but very, very welcoming and very friendly, and generally quite appreciative of the fact that someone's taken the time to give them a call. And so it's really trying to keep an eye on, the local military community and making sure that if there is anything going on out there that we are not aware of, that we're made aware of it, and where we might be able to offer some assistance. And yeah, generally people are very appreciative of these sorts of things. I mean, hospital visits and visits to people in care homes is actually quite rewarding sometimes. So that's the sort of the local branch community support that we offer. Then there is the question of wider welfare. That really entails what we call case working. And within the branch, there's two of us that do case working, and we report to a case officer who's also incidentally based in Bridgwater, and the case officer is responsible for the whole of Somerset and on occasion other parts of the West as well, and it revolves around more serious issues, so things such as substance misuse, homelessness, financial worries and concerns, mental illness, etc. Or I hasten to add, I mean, we're no experts in mental illness, but things crop up fairly frequently. you know, especially from guys that have recently been in conflict areas. And so we basically build up a portfolio for these people, and offer services that the Legion offers on a nationwide basis. So if anybody does know of anybody that's sort of in those sorts of scenarios, that they think perhaps could do with some help, then, you know, just contact the national helpline, and that will filter its way down to us. I would stress that you ought to get the person's permission first to do that. Quite important.
Must get the permission, but
Yeah.
talking about everybody in the RBL, so it could be it's serving and ex-serving personnel and their families. So we could be talking about parents of someone serving, or offspring, sons and daughters of someone serving,
spouse, partner, etc. And it's generally reckoned that any one time that there are about 6.5 million people in the UK that are eligible for support from the Royal British Legion. So it's a lot of people. We hope that they don't all try and get all of us at one go.
But what you can support the person who is supporting the person who is serving, say. So you could be supporting a spouse of someone.
Absolutely.
You can do that. You can't speak to the person without their permission, but you can speak to the other people who are supporting. And I think there was an instance where a carer caring for someone was supported, wasn't it?
Those cases are relatively rare, but we do have instances where we decide that a carer for somebody who's been, somebody that's been looking after an ex-service person could actually do with a bit of support as well.
Yeah.
I think most of us appreciate that caring for somebody on a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week basis is not easy. So yeah, we've had instances like that as well.
And it's to do with welfare that you do as a caseworker. It's to do with more of the serious issues, like, as you say, drug addiction, homelessness. If you've got no food, we've got arrangements with the food banks, that sort of thing, isn't it? And debt, spiraling debt.
Debt worries are probably the most usual things, or at least it usually comes into the equation. And sometimes it's through nobody's specific fault. People just find themselves in circumstances where, how did this happen to me? What have I done wrong, sort of thing. And the short answer is, look, things happen, and we will always try and pick up the pieces and try and get people back into what one might term a normal situation.
Yeah. And beneficiaries, they don't have to be members of the Royal British Legion. I mean, it only costs £17 a year, doesn't it? As you would say. Yeah. What do you say, the price of 3 pints?
I reckon it equates to the price of about 5 pints of beer if you live in Somerset, and if you live in London, it's probably the price of 3 pints of beer. Oh, so that's just my take on it.
That's it, your take. But they don't have to be a member. They just have to have served in the forces, or currently serving in the forces, or be direct relation to someone in the forces.
That's right.
They can receive the help. This is set up.
We would like people to be members of the RBL, of course, but it's not a prerequisite at all.
Don't let that be a barrier to stopping. And how can people get the help they need?
Okay, so there's a couple of ways. First of all, we've got a local telephone number and a local email address, and then there's the national helpline number. And when it comes to more serious cases, what one ought to do is contact the national helpline number, because the recipient of the call will ask certain questions, and they'll make sure that the caller is channeled in the right direction. So that's the ideal situation, using the 0808 number. But I think you're going to put that up after, Debbie, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For all the people watching this, if you need those numbers and those contact details, I will be adding them to this post. So we're not going to say them and you don't have to remember them. They'll be there for you to copy down if you need to, or click on them. And we've got quite a strong team. You said, there's at least 2 of you here, and we cover all things. So the other guy works on behalf of RAFA, which is the Royal Air Force people,
Yeah,
as well as the Royal British Legion. So
that's right.
it doesn't matter what area of the forces you were in, whether you're a sort of the Navy or the Air Force or the military. It doesn't matter, the army, does it? It doesn't matter.
No, it's irrelevant. So long as you've served in HM forces in one capacity or another, then great. Get in touch if you need the help. And of course, we are always looking for more people to come on board with this sort of thing, because it's a massive area of concern, and getting people on board, volunteers, it helps us all, and it gives you a real big boost in terms of your own feeling of your own self-worth. When you come away having found that you've helped somebody, it's a real good feeling. I mean, at the moment we are being severely restricted because of COVID.
Yeah.
We would normally go and visit people, and sit with them for as long as it takes. We clearly can't do that at the moment, but we are finding ways around it, and as the service is still continuing in spite of COVID.
I know that for caseworkers, not so much for branch community support and for the staffing of the new premises, which is going to be at the top of Queen Street.
In Queen Street.
Queen Street. So that's at the side of Santander in Bridgwater, isn't it?
Yeah. It's right opposite Court Street. So that small turning, top of Court Street, and you can see the building there. Yeah.
So we're looking for people who can help staff those premises. But in terms of caseworkers, it's not a requirement, but is it official that people have in the services?
No, you do not have to have been in the services. I would say, from my experience, that it helps, because you sort of you have a bit of an understanding with people. You've got a shared background, but there's a lot of people who've got all sorts of skills in that area, and you can overcome the bit about being in the services. I think it's probably fair to say, out of the people that I know, the majority have been in the services. But for example, our case officer in Somerset, she's not been in the services, but she's very, very closely linked to it. So it does help, but it's not a requirement at all.
And if people want to be a volunteer to help with being a caseworker, they will be given full support, full training, and we're very strong as a branch, aren't we? We've 4 years going for new premises now, so we're quite cohesive as a group and quite supportive. So they'll get all of that, and of course you're experienced now. So, and as you say, the support, the caseworker main support one is in Bridgwater anyway, so she'll be able to support.
I mean, we're just ordinary people doing what one might describe sometimes as a bit of an extraordinary job, but it's all voluntary. We will train people, we will never leave them alone in premises, and we will never ever ask anybody to do anything that we don't feel they're either capable of or been trained to do. It is a situation where you're dealing with human beings, some of whom have been through some pretty traumatic times, and you don't really need any particular skills, I don't think, apart from being able to communicate. But as I said before, having been in the forces, it is helpful when you're dealing with welfare type scenarios, because you have a sort of shared background.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very rewarding, I can tell you.
What would you like to say to someone who's struggling? What's the biggest obstacle you think that you face in getting help?
It's got 5 letters in the word. That's called pride. Many service people that you talk to do not want to ask for help. They don't feel that they should be asking for help. They feel that any help they're getting means it deprives somebody else of help that they might need. And most service persons are quite self-dependent, have quite forthright views on that sort of thing. But the bottom line is, every one of us during our lives, at times, we tend to fall on hard or rocky times. We have difficulties, and we're not judgmental. It's, you know, if you need assistance, then we're happy to give it. And all I would say is, pick up the phone, dial the national helpline number, and we'll be there. And then if you decide that that you don't want to take it any further, that's entirely up to you. But don't let pride get in the way. Just accept that we are there to help if you want it, and so pick up the phone and call.
I've heard you say it's everyone's right to this help as well, isn't it?
Say that again, sorry.
Everybody's right to this.
Absolutely,
they're entitled.
Yeah, it's an entitlement. Our constitution set us up like that. You know, you're entitled to ask for help. It has to be said that we can't help everybody, and we might refer you on to another organisation who might be better placed to deal with your particular circumstances. But, you know, we're always in the background there managing that scenario. So, you know, you're entitled to it. You've earned it. That's the point. It's been earned, and therefore you should take advantage of it. You wouldn't go to work and expect not to be paid, would you?
No.
And it's the same scenario. You earn your pay, you earn the support, and you know there's no difference in the two.
Okay, so that's great. So I'm going to put all these contact details up when I post this little interview up. Ray, is a 50% chance if you ring the local helpline that you'll be getting Ray. Anyway, so you know who you're speaking to, and you know the RBL is there for you. So please make use of the charity that was set up for you. Right, so thank you from Ray.
All right, you're welcome.
And thank you from me as well. Okay, bye.
For now.